Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans. It's Thursday, June 7th, and on this week's edition of the Team of Rivals podcast, the Cubs are heating up. The Cardinals are not. Oh, hell, let's just get right into it. The Team of Rivals podcast starts now.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. Playing a high drive into left. Back goes the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. The Cardinals world champion from 2011. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
All the headlines talk about the bullpen. It's only talking about the bullpen. The bullpen couldn't hold the lead. The bullpen couldn't hold them. This is what talking about the bullpen in these headlines. I mean, the problem is the offense. The bullpen's all these guys when you score like 1 or 2 runs every other game. They're inconsistent. They've been inconsistent for like 4 or 5 seasons. They don't do anything about it. They're getting the same people out there. Oh yeah, Matt Carter, he's going to be our third hitter this year. He's never been able to do it. We keep counting on that. We've got Jose. Love the guy. Come on, they hit it.
We've had problems
this year. They get under control.
The Cardinals offense hold our chess pieces.
And welcome back, everyone, to the show this week. And what you've just heard is a real-life, true story reenactment of Cardinals fans' social media over the last 7 days. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight? That was fun.
That was awesome.
You know how I'm doing, man? I will tell you this. If things are going to continue the way that they have, and this becomes the norm.
2 walks and a single have loaded the bags for the Cubs. The Philly lead is 5-3. Bases loaded, 2 outs. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Hayward. Jason trying to...
Here we go. Son of a bitch. I already know what happened.
Taylor Morgan slowly comes set. And the 2-2 pitch. Hayward hits a high fly ball.
All the headlines talk about the bullpen. It's only talking about the bullpen. The bullpen couldn't hold the lead. The bullpen couldn't hold them. My God, this is what talking about the headlines. I mean, the problem is...
I tell you what, man, though, if that's going to become the norm, if Jason Hayward is going to be the player that he's been since he came back from his concussion, it's going to be a long season for Cardinals fans.
Well, it's going to be a long season for Cardinals fans despite the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs aside, like take them out of the equation, set them over here. The Cardinals season is long, and it has nothing to do with the Cubs. They have a slew of problems, a slew of injuries. I'm sure that there have been years where they have been hit by massive injuries like they have this year. They're just not in my time as a fan who's paid attention in my youth or in my adulthood. But it's been a brutal week. It's been a brutal week if you're a Cardinal fan. And I think, in all seriousness, let's get the serious part over with, like right off the bat. I mean, because it was equal to your Billy Williams, Ernie Banks. We lost the Cardinals Nation lost a beloved figure, and no, he wasn't Stan Musial, but Red Chaindienst was a fixture, a staple in that organization for 67 years. Not many organizations can claim that they've had a player or a former player, a person that has been associated with an organization for such a long period of time. He signed with that team when he was in his, I believe, I could be wrong, in his early 20s, slept on a bench outside of Union Station because he couldn't afford a hotel room to go to a tryout to sign with the Cardinals, and ended up there for 67 years, guys. That is a pretty big deal. And he grew up in Illinois, near the St. Louis area, but he was beloved by the Cardinals fans. not just Cardinals fans, by anybody, any player that had come up through that organization that had been involved with it, managers, front office. I mean, he had touched everything there. He's a Hall of Famer. He is he is a Hall of Famer. He's a Cardinals Hall of Famer, wore the red coat. Into his 90s, he showed up at spring training in full uniform to instruct minor leaguers, young guys coming up. So, I mean, Red was, he was one of those George Kissel type figures that groomed and trained young Cardinal players as they came up through the system. So he was 95 years old. So this is not like a surprise, guys. This is not like oh my gosh, somebody went too early. I mean, Red was, he was up there in years, but I mean, it just, when you lose those icons you have, when they finally aren't around anymore, like an uncle you love, you think is going to be around forever. That's what it feels like to Cardinal fans. So
I have to say, in reading it last night, what I was struck by was not the length of his connection to the team. That's not, Ernie Banks was with the Cubs for 60 plus years. What amazed me about it was that Red was still a coach. I mean, he was still active. Yeah. He wasn't a community liaison, who went out and shook hands and stuff like Ernie Banks.
He still went to every home game too.
Yeah, he hit fungos
as many as he could. Yeah, no, I mean, when you looked at guys playing in the year 2000 and beyond, he was hitting fungos. You're right, Pete. He was hitting fungos to guys on the infield under the Tony La Russa era, and not little ones either. I mean, he was hitting hard ground balls to people that would bruise their shin.
Yep.
So it's just just one more piece of Cardinal history that's passed on, but he's immortalized in that town. He's immortalized in that ballpark and with the players that have ever met him and fans and media. So sad news, but this is just a part of life. He's 95 years old, and we condolences, thoughts are with him and his family and the organization. But life happens.
Yep.
Yeah, we're all just gonna float away.
We're all just gonna float away. But what a great icon he was. And imagine that as long as his tenure was active, Pete, and you brought up a good point. Active, right? Yep. He was active for more years than most guys are. But he has his statue out there. And yes, he was the Scottie Pippen to the Michael Jordan.
That's not a bad thing to be.
No, that's not a bad thing to be, but he's beloved, and rest in peace, Red. And Cardinals Nation will never forget you. And there we go. Continuing on with the Cardinals, if you guys don't mind.
No, you guys are far more entertaining right now. Actually, it's not your team; it's your fans.
It's no, it's both, Pete. It's both. To be honest with you. They come off taking 3-4 from Pittsburgh. Not that that's many things most teams would celebrate, but coming off that series, you're like, well, they might be clicking. The offense is scoring a little bit more runs. It's a little consistent. We've got some good starting pitching, and then the Marlins happened. The Marlins, which happened to be when they arrived in St. Louis, were the worst team in baseball, and it's not that they dropped 2 out of 3 from the worst team in baseball, because that's bound to happen to somebody at some point in time in the year. Even the worst team is going to win a series. But the manner in which they lost them was most disturbing to Cardinal fans. The bullpen, who, yes, it's had question marks all year, and everybody likes to, by default, point to the bullpen for being the reason for every Cardinal loss this year. But the bullpen hasn't been at fault for the Cardinal offense only being able to put up 1 or 2 runs against bad teams.
Yeah.
That's not the bullpen's fault. But the bullpen did falter in this series. Carlos Martinez didn't look great in this series. Jack Flaherty had a tough outing. Miles Mikolas, thank God, none of us had high hopes for him coming into this year. He pitched great today.
Showstopper.
Yeah, you need one. Who knew Miles Mikolas and his mustache would be the next Chris Carpenter for this year? But he's taken on that role. But I mean, it's looking not good for Cardinals fans, and I agree that they have a lot of reason to be concerned. Now, some of them are over the top, panicking, yelling out loud. I mean, we heard it, as we started the show. I mean, this is real life.
All the headlines talk about the bullpen. It's only talking about the bullpen. The bullpen couldn't hold the lead.
It's not real. I got my wife in on that too.
Were those her own comments, or was she reading?
Channel your anger at me, and then she took right off. One take, done. So, but no, it's been a bad week. I mean, not only did we have the serious news about Red passing, but you know what? Life happens to people in advanced stage. That's not going to set anybody back. But we had devastating news about Alex Reyes. I don't want to go into that yet. I want to save that for a bit because the Cubs have been climbing up in the standings. But before we get to any of the rest of this stuff, I want to get past the serious news first. Pete, we probably have some business that I bypassed.
You think?
Welcome to the show,
time
everybody.
ago. Well,
yeah, welcome to the Team of Rivals podcast. If you're not watching us live, you can find us everywhere at teamofrivalspodcast.com. On Facebook, just search for the Team of Rivals podcast. On Twitter, we're at Team of Rivals Pod, and on Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. And for those of you who are watching live, you can listen again on every major podcast platform, including iTunes and Radio Public. And of course, don't forget to visit the team store on Zazzle.
And leaving some feedback that they're, never mind.
You can also find me on Twitter at TOR_Elliott.
No, I'm going to say it. If you don't like any of the shit you bought from them, send it back.
Yeah.
And write F you on your check if you happen to be one of those people that still mail a check. All right, guys.
Hey.
On to the Cubs. Well, how you guys all been this week? We haven't talked.
Personally or just from a Cubs standpoint?
Barely personally. I mean, we recorded a day early last week, right?
Yeah,
So we've went 8 days. I've went 8 days without podcasting. My wife and I started to connect again, but then I podcasted tonight and she totally detached from me after I.
She's probably happier for it.
Yes, she probably is. So we've had a week in baseball. It's been brutal on Cardinal Nation, but the Cubs, let's just catch us up on the Cubs before we get into all the Cardinals mess, because that is a mess. Cubs have climbed up in the standings a bit.
Yep. Half game back right now. They have been playing some good ball lately. Notwithstanding last night's heroics, which I almost woke up my entire family sleeping last night by screaming. Totally unexpected.
Can you reproduce that, Elliott? Just for the crowd. Can you point your voice away from the microphone so we don't get the full effect? But was it like? I mean, what was it like?
No, it was.
Let me help you out here. Let me give you a little cue. You ready? Here, let's provide a little background noise.
Yeah, 2-2 pitch. Hayward hits a high fly ball. Deep right field. That goes Altair.
All the headlines talk about the bullpen. It's only talking about the bullpen couldn't hold him.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was laying over the card.
And that's the problem with both of us having soundboards now.
But it'll be a good thing in the long run. Once we learn how to use them. I was irresponsible there, Pete. I took your moment away. And I'm sorry.
No, actually, it was Elliott's moment. I was just trying to provide him a little background.
I don't think he was delivering on it, though.
He wasn't delivering on it.
That's why I had to jump in. He was tampering it down a bit.
I was, don't want to yell in people's ears.
We were asking for it, Pete or Elliott. Every time I'm mad at something,
you said
Pete comes out of my mouth. All right, we should probably got to get to baseball. We're going to tune everybody out this week.
So as far as the Cubs go, Elliott's right. The offense has been playing a little bit more consistently. Tyler Chatwood pitched exclusively, I think, today out of the stretch.
His last two starts has been exclusively.
Still wasn't effective. He had 7 walks today.
Like Chatwood from batter one has been out of the stretch.
Yeah, pitched out of the stretch from the leadoff. Okay. Gave up 7 walks, only 1 run today. Hit a pitch or hit a batter. He had guys on base every inning and somehow managed to wriggle his way out of it. The funny thing I find about Chatwood is that Cubs fans and even the media are reacting to this like he's the weak link, and that if we can't get Tyler Chatwood straightened out, this season's going to be lost. He's the 5th starter.
Right.
You're not getting that much worse a performance than you were getting out of old John Lackey last year. So settle down. If you have one bad start a week, fine. whatever.
You can't stop the social media machine from
No.
tearing into. You guys know that, right? Which
No,
is why
that's
the
true.
offense is starting to heat up, but
Yeah,
I'm still a
they
little
took a
skeptical.
series against the Giants. They took series against the Pirates. They swept the Mets in New York, which is
that was
not
like your
easy.
highlight. That was like your highlight last week, right? Yeah, I saw a bunch of chatter about that.
Yeah, and then we just took the series against the Phillies. So it was it's been a good stretch of games right now. And you know what? And here's to that motherfucker at the Milwaukee Zoo that rolled by me the other night saying "Go Crew" with his fucking hat on, and I just
Go Crew.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's like "Go Crew."
Yeah.
I'm wearing a Cubs t-shirt, and I'm just like, dude, seriously, you're just gonna that's what you do. Hey, half game out, buddy. Half game out. So. You know what? And I've never known Brewers fans to kind of start
angry I've ever seen
assholes.
The most angry I've ever seen Elliott. Right there. It's documented.
Holding my little 4-year-old's hand. We're walking around. We're looking at the dinosaur exhibit. He's like, "Go!" It like leans in. "Go Crew!" I'm like, seriously.
Pete, do you have any stories that can match that, or are you just going to be boring tonight? And what are you doing?
No, I don't. I've completely recovered from that big overnight experience last Thursday night, so I'm kind of mellow right now.
Oh, you had prom, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a long day. That was a 20-hour day.
Did you have to break up any of the teenagers?
Yeah,
to go at?
Was there any heavy petting?
Heavy petting, yeah.
Yeah, but I stopped once they told me. Ron,
all right.
I love that.
I wasn't expecting you to go there, Pete.
I'm in a better mood, man.
I should know better.
No. I'll give you.
I'll
give you a story here. So, I don't know what goes on in my organization. We have every year, every spring, we have in the place I work. So I'm not going to mention. In the place I work, we have a slew of college interns that get invited into, and people get assigned interns, and sometimes you don't even know you're getting assigned an intern. Well, I find out in like early this year or late last year. Oh, you got an intern. You're interviewing all of them today to select your intern.
Was she hot?
What? Oh no. Let me work through this. But I'm like, what? Who volunteered me for an intern? Oh, my boss who hasn't talked to me for like 6 months. So it's like, oh, Ron's perfect at training people like this. I'm like, you don't even know what the hell I'm capable of. But all right, fine. So I'm interviewing. I was supposed to interview 3 interns back to back, along with me and 3 other managers that work in the place I work. When I interviewed the first person, she happens to be a softball player at UNC. I'm like, oh, cool. You know, baseball, softball, whatever. And it's fine. She's talking about her season, how it's going. I'm like, great. I have no. I'm talking about purely.
She's a softball player. Never mind.
No. Did she happen to play softball? She's played softball for her team. So, I was. The conversation got dominated about baseball, softball. That's the problem. I'm like, oh, we got something in common because I used to play. She plays. Got a lot of stuff to talk about in like a 30-minute interview. Last 5 minutes, like, okay, shit. Well, what are your qualifications? Great. You're perfect for the position. Anyway,
position?
So I had to Pete. Come on, man. This is clean. I'm a married guy. These are college interns. I'm like old enough to be their dad. No, not a thought in my mind. I didn't want an intern. I never asked for one. I just got assigned one. So I go to the next room to interview the next intern, and the next one. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, you know what? The first one had the most personality, so I think that's the one that, you know, I think I saw a lot of potential in her, and I think she had we connected on baseball, softball, whatever, and they go, well, where did she go after you interviewed her? I'm like, I don't know. I just interviewed her. Well, she just left. What did you say to her? I'm like, I didn't say anything to her. Well, she just left after your interview.
Like, was she not supposed to leave after the interview?
She wasn't. She was supposed to say for 2 more people, but she left. So HR was like, "Oh my God, what did you say to her?" I'm like, normal interview. What happened was she thought she didn't know what she was supposed to say for 2 more people. And after I was done and I left the room, she's like, "Okay, I'm free to go," and left. And HR was like worried, like, "What did you say?" Like, nothing. So
they thought
anyway,
they were going to have somebody a part of the Me Too movement at your work.
Right. I think that's exactly what. But anyway, no, she's fine. She's an intern. She's interning for me right now at the company. She's got her summer project. She's great. But yes, we did connect. She's a softball player, so the whole baseball softball thing, that was a connection. But awesome. But yeah, that was my experience with my first college intern.
Nice.
Mixed with an HR scare.
Oh
my God. People only knew me how unthreatening I actually am. But they don't bother to ask. Judgers. Anyway.
So Ron, this I think is going to be a Cardinals heavy show because that's where all the news is, man. The Cubs are just winning. That's
it
not
is
nearly as exciting to
you
talk
say
about.
it like such a dick when you say it too. I mean,
I've been practicing it. All day, man.
You know, this news is really heavy on you this week because the Cubs have just been winning so much. It must be just fucking devastating for your fan base.
Well, I'm hoping for the Cardinals that they win this weekend because you do have the Reds coming in. So
they just lost the series to the Marlins, so let's not bet too heavily on the Cards. Okay.
No, I wouldn't right now either. It is, we were talking about it. We recorded the Cardinals Nation podcast right before this, and there's like 4 confused adult men about what the state of this team is right now. I don't think there was a consensus on what the fix is. There's not. It's not firing the manager and just having Jose Oquendo take over tomorrow is not going to fix what's wrong with them. Is there still a lot of call for Matheny's head? I mean, I was going through Cardinals Twitter, and it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of firing Matheny and bringing somebody in was the fix. It's kind of a combination of, the players aren't playing to their potential. Dexter's lazy.
No, he's got
Carlos Martinez isn't, telling people how he really.
No, he's 6'5". That's the reason.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, his wife's defending him that he's 6'5". But if you, and you know what, you can't blame a person for defending their spouse for whatever, and they're getting blasted on social media. But, you can't help but to watch what people are pointing out and look at it and go, I don't know. Kind of looks like somebody was kind of jogging to that ball or jogging up the baseline. You cannot look at those things, and I guess it's hard for people to objectively look at those things and judge them. So, yeah.
Ron, I know what your team needs right now. Are you ready for this?
Well, I'm ready for it. I don't really want to hear what you have to say. But go ahead.
You lollygag the ball around the infield. You lollygag your way down to first. You lollygag in and out of the dugout. You know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers. What's our record, Larry?
8-16.
8-16.
Yes, I get it.
How'd we ever?
Yes. Yes.
That certainly seems to be the sense from Cardinals Twitter, is that that's the fix. That they just need a good talking to and a reminder of fundamentals, and everything will be better.
You know what? People that know the game, follow the game, and you're talking about people that tepidly follow stuff, right? They get emotional, but they don't really know the details. They don't know the ins and outs. And I'm not trying to present myself as an elitist, like one of those musical enthusiasts that rips on people for liking, like.
You mean like your former roommate?
Yes. I love that guy, and I haven't talked to him for too long.
He's awesome.
He's the best. But yes, the Cardinal, even the deepest of Cardinal fan base who follow the team, that know the ins and outs, that know better, everything's coming to a head. Like, we've seen too many years now of non-performance or inconsistent performance. And I think it exploded the other night when Carpenter got thrown out at first on a catch in the outfield when he shouldn't have been that close to second base. And then Tommy Pham getting picked off on third base. I mean, those two incidents right there are like, this team is fundamentally flawed in so many ways. And none of us want to say that. And I'm not going to be an over-enthusiastic, everything's always positive. We should root for your team no matter what. Bury your head in the sand, put your head in the clouds, that you should always root for the Cardinals. Well, I think most fans aren't like that. You know, we get disappointed when your team doesn't perform like you expect them to. And so I don't apologize to people when I rip on my team because they're not doing what I expect them to do. And clearly, even to fans that are neutral, when they look at the Cardinals highlights and go, how the hell did he get picked off on third base? You can't. That should be a pretty good indication that they're not a smart team right now. They may not be a smart team for the whole year, but they're just not playing smart baseball. In fact, they're playing pretty dumb baseball, and I'm amazed that there are 6 games above 500 like they are. They could very easily be 6 games under 500.
Well, at this time last year, they were about 3 games under 500.
Yeah, they were worse off. They were worse off, but
yeah.
But they treaded water the whole year, so they ended up 6 games above, or whatever it was above. But yeah, they're not. It's been a very tough week. We haven't even talked about the Alex Reyes injury, so let's just pivot to that if we can. I mean, their performance is one thing, but the other devastating news is Alex Reyes, works 15 plus months to come back, pitches 4 innings, and then all of a sudden is gone for another 6 months. He's done for 2018. He's not coming back. He won't be back till 2019. So he's effectively missed 2 years of his career with a cameo for 4 innings against Milwaukee. And who knows what we're going to get on the opposite end of that. To think that we're going to get the Alex Reyes that was blowing people away in the minor leagues, to think that we're going to get that same guy back off this injury is foolish. We don't know what we're going to get back. So I look at him like a neutral prospect. I'll judge it when the time comes, but I'm not banking on it right now. But guys, it's a double whammy, I think, with that one. Because if he would have been able to come back 100%, and you would think most guys would, that would leave them with Martinez, Reyes, Mikolas, Waka, who's pitched great recently, by the way. You would think that they have some pitching depth in their minor league system with Austin Gomber, with Helsley, with Dakota Hudson. They had some depth from which they could have traded to get an impact bat, which I think is their greater need. But now that he's down, they're going to be much more cautious about doing that. So it is it's a double whammy.
I'd love to be able to pinpoint where the blame on this actually lies. It seems that there's a flaw with the management, and I don't know if it's with the training staff or what. And it's not.
Well, it's a common denominator, Pete. So I don't disagree.
Right. I mean, it's not isolated to Reyes, right? Martinez comes back from his DL stint, and he's worried and doesn't throw as hard in his start last night. It was last night, right? He admittedly didn't throw as hard.
No,
because
2 nights ago, I think.
Or 2 nights ago. He was worried about re-injuring himself. Well, then that seems to be an indicator that he's not being cared for properly by the training staff. Tommy Pham's constant injury issues, including with his eyesight. Like, at some point, somebody who has chronic vision issues, like, get him glasses. Stop messing around with contacts. Put glasses on. Glasses aren't going to move. You're not going to lose them. They're on your face. Like, it just seems that something's missing. But it seems to me that it almost goes higher up to the front office, because your rotation has been the team's strength this year. I think anybody who has even peripherally watched the Cardinals would agree that their starting staff has carried them to this point. There was no reason to rush Alex Reyes back and put him in the rotation. None whatsoever. I think he would have been better served, and the team would have actually been better served if they had stuck with what we had heard was the original plan, to bring him back slowly and then put him in the bullpen, because that bullpen could certainly use him. You know, think about if Bud Norris has been effective this year. Think about if you could throw in Alex Reyes, Jordan Hicks, and Bud Norris to cover the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and possibly even the 6th, 7th, and 8th and 9th innings. Then your starting pitchers only have to get 5 innings. And the way that Waka has performed, the way that Michaelis has performed, it would mean that, you know, you wouldn't be burning those guys out. But seems like everybody, including Alex Reyes, got all excited by his early returns and his performances in the minor leagues, and they decided, nope, right into the rotation with him when it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
It seems like that decision, that lack of vision came back to bite him.
Well, and that's hard to argue at this point where we are right now. And I also can't argue that the Cardinals starting rotation was not their biggest need, that maybe they could have used him in the bullpen to just cut it loose for an inning or two every other night. But I go back to what I said earlier, is that they see him as a starter. They want to put him back in. I agree with you. Did he come back too early? Perhaps. But he also should have been very candid about his soreness in his last AAA start. And he was not, which is and with Carlos Martinez's comments about why he came out throwing with a little bit slower velocity, Matheny has expressed frustration outwardly to the media, which is not normal for him, that he's disappointed in the communication. So I don't know whether to pin that on him for setting that tone, or to whether you've got a bunch of young guys, young players, who don't want to tell you how they're feeling because they're itching to come back.
Or because they're, you know, maybe they're afraid of how it's going to be received by the coaching staff. If they say, Coach, I'm not 100%, I can't coach.
But I can't imagine how a guy coming off Tommy John surgery who expresses discomfort somewhere, that somebody up top is not going to be like, oh God, no, well, we don't want to hear that. You know, you power through it. No, I don't think so. I mean, they were patient that long enough from him. I would imagine they said, hey, any discomfort, anything you feel that's abnormal, you've got to tell us. And it didn't happen. I just can't imagine adults, people in those positions, not stressing that to these young players. If you still feel that something's wrong, you've got to tell us. We've invested this much time. We put you through this much recovery. You got to tell us if something doesn't feel right. I think I find it hard to believe. I would have to be really convinced that the organization didn't tell these guys that, for any organization for that matter.
Well, and as a player, to put in that much work over that long of time, you don't want to set yourself back like that. So doesn't it behoove you to say, hey, coach, or tell the team doctor, I have some discomfort. Is this normal? Is this just stretching out? What am I feeling here? And I mean, God, you got to imagine most athletes are going to speak up and not try and power through it. I mean,
well, you'd be you're worried about young ones, but I think given what everything that somebody had gone through, they would be wise enough to at least, like, something doesn't feel right, and then stop things, take a timeout, figure out what's going on. But
imagine like in 2016, Kyle Schwarber trying to come back in August when he was still hurting or possibly hurting, and then just totally ruining that. Yeah,
I wish you would have.
And then your 2016 World Series looks totally different.
That would have been great, by the way. Pete's not saying anything. He's just staring at me like, you motherfucker.
I'm just enjoying seeing you relive.
Enjoying the pain.
Yeah.
It is pain right now. So we I didn't get to ask this on the last show, but I predict now, and I know, Pete, you've heard me say this many times, that failure is going to induce changes that are needed. I'm at a point right now where I think change is needed. However, I think the fact that so many people are on the DL is going to allow their front office to kick the can down the road a little bit longer. Like their get out of jail free card is that we have all these guys on the DL that we don't have to make changes. These guys were healthy. Had my horses. That, you know what I mean? But I think even if those guys were healthy, I think their offense is still just not good enough. It's just dismal. But the injuries allow them to kick the can down a little bit more. It allows Mozeliak to go, well, if you think about it, and mesmerize you with his bow tie and everything, that he can get you to not overcommit to your madness. But I have to feel that a significant change. If they miss the playoffs 3 years in a row, they have to do something. And I look at the common denominator there and I say, well, Athene's a common denominator, and so is the front office. So what do you think? Which dam is going to break? As outsiders, I'm asking you, which dam is going to break?
Well, look, managers are hired to be fired. Every single one of them, no matter how successful they are. Nobody manages forever anymore. So I think that I don't know that it's an in-season move. That doesn't strike me as something that the Cardinals would do, but I don't see Matheny lasting after the end of this season. I think he's out. And I think a lot of his pitching or a lot of his coaching staff goes with him.
I think a little of his coaching staff goes with him. I think the hitting coach and him, but they just brought in Mike Maddox. They're not going to.
Yeah, I think Mike Maddox stays.
I don't see them. They're not going to fire Willie McGee either. So,
but maybe Mike Maddox gets his shot at the head chair.
I would think if they were to do it in midseason, which I don't think they will. I agree with you on that. It would have to be Jose Oquendo getting the interim and then getting a shot at managing again without getting it. So they risk losing him if they fire Matheny in season. So I think if they let him go, they let him go out of season and explain to Jose, like, you are priceless to us where you're at. Coaching, training, working third base. We'll pay you whatever you want. Stay there.
Please don't go.
Do you, now, and I've heard, I've heard the same calls for the batting. Who's the batting coach again? It's escaping Mabry.
Yeah.
For him to be fired and for them to bring in Jim Edmonds as the hitting coach.
Well, that's all fine and good, but
now, Mabry, I could see them cutting him loose in the middle of the season.
Yes,
I could see them cutting Matheny loose, but I could see Mabry being given his walking papers. And probably Bill Miller goes with them, right?
But if they got to a point where they had to let Mabry go, Matheny knows he's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But unless there's a miraculous turnaround in the next, 4 months, 3 months, Mabry's or Matheny.
But I mean, look at the guys they let go. Look at the coaching staff they let go. They let Derek Lilliquist go in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Not a Cardinal player.
You can't keep Matheny as your manager though if they finish in third place again.
No, he will be gone. So I do agree with you guys that. Yeah.
It's fire Matheny, bring in an interim, and then you make Yachty the coach when he retires. There you go.
Player coach.
There you go. Player coach.
I mean, I don't know if that's what Yachty wants to do right away after he retires. I think Yachty's gonna. I would see Yachty as taking a few years off and not being directly involved anymore. I mean, he might be involved with instructional leagues or helping people out in Puerto Rico, but I don't think Yachty's going to jump into a managerial position as soon as he retires.
He's got too many umpires to beat up.
He's going to wait until they all die off. He's going to Joe West dies, and then he's going to come back. Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
All right.
Sorry about that, gents.
Joe West, I'm not worried about. Angel Hernandez is who I want.
All right. Well, all right. So the Cardinals, obviously, I think in their offense, guys have heard me, like, it's just nothing new. It's almost boring to talk about right now. They don't have the guy in the lineup. They don't. They banked on, they made a deal for Marcell Ozuna. That has not worked out. We all know that. Now, I've always maintained the argument that Marcell Ozuna doesn't have the people that he had with him in Miami. He doesn't have Stanton.
Right.
He doesn't have a Yelich. He doesn't have Real Muto, Bohr. He doesn't have those guys. Those guys were better than what the Cardinals had last year, and they're better than what the Cardinals have this year. So, of course, he's not performing at the same level. He's getting better, and his average is near 280 at this point, but it's not the same Marcell Ozuna. So the Cardinals still do not have that guy in their lineup. They don't have that person that people are frightened of, that other teams, as they're going into St. Louis or having St. Louis visit their homestead, that they're afraid of. They have a plan for getting around. Imagine if you have Marcell Ozuna around the Cardinals lineup, what would your plan be? Well, I'm not really throwing him anything he can hit because who's hitting behind him is not very good.
Right.
It's not like it's
going until some of
his
those
approach.
guys step up. It's there. Marcell Ozuna isn't going to see any pitches in the zone. The pitchers don't have to pitch to him, like you're saying. I mean, until Dexter Fowler and Matt Carpenter start hitting, and Jed Jerko in the lineup every single day, he's not going to see pitches.
Well, and as long as Marcell Ozuna's family is around.
Hey, everybody say hi to our new subscriber. Say it.
Which one? Hi, new subscriber.
Hello.
For joining us.
Hey,
we really
like
appreciate
button.
your support.
Hit it.
Hit the like
Hit
button.
the like.
Leave a comment. And thank you for watching. Oh, wait, is that you, Braden?
No.
Braden, if that's you, why haven't you called in yet? Seriously, man, why haven't you called in yet?
You just called the dogs on. He's going to call.
I know, Braden. I mean, really, we need a little fire here. Your dad said that he didn't want to get too heavy here, so we need you to light a fire and launch. What the heck?
I'm pausing because I'm waiting.
I know. I don't understand. He doesn't know how to take a cue. My goodness.
You're going to force me to do it. All right.
For the first time, we are calling in a guest.
Talk about your Cubs.
They still have problems getting guys at home with runners in scoring position. Hey, they did have the home plate rule benefit them today.
Yeah,
I hated it.
Yeah, and I was listening to the post game on my way back from travel today, and Joe Mann said, he's like, it was a great play. The catcher did what he was supposed to do. The throw was great. He's like, but I used the rules to get that extra run. He's like, and I didn't like doing it, but it was a run we needed.
We're doing a home run derby right now.
Hey, okay, well, people can hear you.
Well, we're doing a home run derby right now with Babe Ruth, Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge, Ernie Banks.
There you go.
Harrison Killebrew.
Harrison Bader.
No, Harmon Killebrew. Harmon Killebrew.
Dan Usual, I think so. I don't know.
All right, so you don't want to be bothered right now by your dad.
No.
He doesn't have a take, really?
You don't have a hot take on what happened tonight or today,
or the last
week,
or this whole week?
I don't. It's a crazy, terrible week in baseball when Jason Hayward hits a walk-off grand slam. It tops it all. It's just like a rotten cherry on a terrible birthday cake that your grandma makes you that just sucks.
Hayward hits a high fly ball, deep right field. That goes Altair. It's got a chance. Grand slam.
It's not good, okay? Just, it's a terrible week when just Jason Hayward, all the people in the world. It just 11-3 to the Marlins.
Yeah, I know, Braden. It was a painful night.
Okay, there was a guy. That name was like what? I don't even know. JB, like Peanut Butter and Jelly Jim or something like that. I don't even know who the guy is.
He doesn't know he muted himself.
That's how pissed off he is.
Yeah.
Me.
I muted myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear what I said about Peanut Butter and Jelly Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Go ahead
did.
and rant about it for the next 6 seconds, and we need to move on. Go ahead.
Okay. There's a guy whose name is JB. JB on the Marlins. His nickname is probably freaking Jelly Jim or something. I don't even know who the guy is. The guy looks like he was at a freaking bar or something. The Marlins like, hey, want to come play baseball for us? He's like, well, sure. Like one of them rednecks. And we lose to that team.
All right.
First pitch of the season gave up a home run. That team. 8 runs.
Yeah, I know.
8. Not 9.
You don't have to slam the camera forward when you say 8.
8.
But it helps.
Makes him feel better.
All right.
Hey, tell the guys what your MLB The Show character was.
Well, you probably can't hear them.
Well, just tell them.
Guy, why don't you say something? Tell me.
What's up? Can you hear?
Yeah. Good, Elliott. Talk.
Yep.
No, I
Tell
can't
them what your guy's character was.
You're supposed to tell us, bro.
Yeah, you're supposed to tell us.
You don't
Ron.
remember?
all right. So I'm supposed to. What was my character on his MLB? What was it?
Remember?
Come on.
His name was The Last Jedi. His number was 12.
His name was Last Jedi. His number is 12.
We can hear it.
Flat bill cap, Arietta beard.
Nice.
And I looked up the exact height of J.K. Arrieta and the exact weight of Kyle Schwarber. You want to hear something crazy? Kyle Schwarber weighs less than J.K. Arrieta.
Now he does.
I was actually kind of shocked. I knew he lost weight, but I was still kind of shocked.
All right. You play your game with your buddy. We'll talk to you later.
Well, we're in a home run derby right now, and I hit a bomb. So.
All right. We'll talk about it later.
But I will never speak of the Cardinals again
He
if they
doesn't care.
lose
Like,
worse to the Marlins.
I talked to him. He's like, screw you, Dad. I'm just going to keep talking.
Because
I own this.
right now, my talking will not stop because we lost to the Marlins. We lost to the Marlins.
I know, Braden. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
We lost to the Marlins. I don't care. Maybe it was 3-2. 1-2, 11-3.
All right. What? I can't make you feel better. Are you crying?
No. But
All right.
this was my face after the game.
Yeah, I know. All right. I'll cry tomorrow. Love
It
you.
didn't help when I woke up and saw
He
Jason
doesn't care.
Hayward to the walk
I gotta
up.
tell him. I'll call you tomorrow. And he's like, screw you. I'm just gonna keep going.
Jason Hayward.
Oh, don't, Braden. You're inviting a hornet's nest. Just stop. Pete's gonna play the sound. It's not gonna be pretty.
All right. I might as well scream in my pillow for a little bit now.
That'd be better.
That's what I did last night when I went to bed.
All right. Let me call you tomorrow.
All right.
You're the
They
best.
lose,
You're
I
the
swear.
best call-in
They
we've ever had.
tomorrow,
Yeah. Thanks,
All
Braden.
it was Reds. If
Everybody
we
stop.
lose worse to the Reds, if Scooter Jeanette hits 5 home runs
Can you
and
hear
beats
them?
his
Can
record,
you hear them talking to you?
huh?
Can you hear them talking to you?
No.
They've been
No.
talking to you the whole time.
So I'm probably cutting them off, but I don't hear them.
Well, you have talked a lot.
Well, if Scooter Jeanette breaks his record and hits 5
Jesus
home runs in a game,
Christ.
it could. If it does, Scooter Jeanette. I didn't even know who the
I don't
guy
even
was.
care about Scooter Jeanette, Braden. Why are we talking about this?
Because
You have a buddy there. You have a sleepover buddy. Have fun.
And he's playing MLB.
I don't need to see him. Why did you flip the camera around?
Because this was my face.
Well, he looks cool. Hey, buddy. Hey, I'll call you tomorrow night.
All right.
We got to end this.
Hey, wait before you end
Marlins.
it. Hey, he can't hear me, right?
Well,
Marlins.
I'll relay.
Can you hear
what
me?
gotta say.
All right. Hey,
Hey,
Pete,
you tell him that we're going to Star
Braden, quiet.
tell him I got
You
2
tell
words
him
for him.
I'm relaying Pete's message. Go ahead.
I have 2 words for him.
2 words for you.
Jason Hayward.
Jason Hayward.
Yep, that's all I gotta say. Well, I mean, I said a lot more than that, but those are my last 2 words.
That was a rebuttal. How you like that? Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
No, Austin Powers reference.
Yes, it was. All right, buddy.
It's
Love
a
you.
hard knock life.
Yeah. Jesus.
It's a hard knock life.
All right, love you.
I do.
All right, bye, buddy.
Oh gosh.
Bye, guys.
Oh my God, Ron! I think Braden's gone off the deep end.
That was almost as bad as
every time I try to lead him out. He's like, just like, whatever. I'm not listening. I'm just gonna keep going.
Keep talking. Yep.
And nobody wants to be the dad that like, no, I'm just shutting him off.
Man.
Oh,
I wanted to tonight though.
see, Braden is kind of. He tells me how bad the Cardinals week has been when he calls in. If you know it's bad when he's just.
You guys get your best insight when he calls in.
Yeah. He kind of gives us the tone of the week.
That's right.
Oh yeah. Speaking of tone of the week, so
do you want me to play the Grand Slam again? No?
Sure, go ahead.
Tone of the week. Go ahead.
Oh, tone of the week, the Cardinals fans?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can play that again.
No, I think nothing but a sweep will kind of make you feel better. I mean, it's got to be. You got to sweep the Cardinals or the
My
Reds.
book,
all the headlines talk about the bullpen. It's only talking about the bullpen. The bullpen couldn't hold the lead. Bullpen couldn't hold. That was the Cardinals week. A recap. In 30 seconds, that's what happened. It was brutal. It was ugly. Guys, I had a couple other notes up here. Hold on, let me draw them back up. And Cardinals need to. There will be a change of some sort that's coming, but as outsiders, I would really curious to what you think, given their offense, given the staleness of it, the position players that really kind of. You feel like, well, if I've got a minor leaguer that can perform at the same level, maybe we should start moving some things around. What do you think the Cardinals, as outsiders, need to do to make any kind of impact whatsoever? I don't even want to talk about Manny Machado. Let's not. Let's just no.
I was going to say sign Manny Machado.
Yeah, that was.
But that's
what
not.
I was going to say.
But okay, if that's the only answer. That's I just really don't feel like Mo will ever be in his comfort zone doing something like that. He won't be. I mean, Matt Holliday is one thing because nobody's going after him.
To get ownership, Cardinals ownership, to take a chance for once and spend the money to try and make a run. I mean,
they have, but under a different era. It wasn't like it is now, where people value the youth like they did 10 years ago. Pete, you can agree, right? Like, nobody valued their system like they did 10 years ago. And the Cardinals were willing at that time to make the deals. I mean, think about what they did for Holiday, for McGuire, for all these guys. I mean, at that point in time, nobody was scared about veterans over 30. Today, people are petrified about veterans over 30.
Yeah.
So nobody's willing to deal like they were 5 years ago.
And there's much more value in those cost-controlled players now than there was a decade ago. You know, you didn't worry about trading a couple of prospects 10 years ago in order to get a veteran who was going to put you over the top if you thought, and you didn't necessarily even have to be close, within just shouting distance. meant that it was worth the effort. And now it's very much changed. If this isn't the move that is going to put you over the top, then you're not going to sacrifice your future in an attempt to land, an impact player. But yeah, I mean, I know you don't want to talk about him, but Manny Machado makes more sense for the Cardinals than any other team in baseball.
Right. And maybe that's the catalyst that gets Ozuna going, because you put Manny Machado behind Ozuna. Ozuna's going to see a lot of strikes. And then maybe that's kind of what turns your offense around. Maybe he's a catalyst to start getting Carpenter going and to start getting Fowler going. And then you've got a great top of the lineup, and not just guys hitting 175 or 210 or.
Do you bat Machado behind Ozuna though?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, do you bat him before or after? I mean, I don't know. I would
profiles is much more of a number 3 hitter than and even if you abandon the traditional roles, I would think that you want to get Machado as many at bats in a game as possible. So you're putting him in the 2 or 3
3.
I would have to think if you trade for a guy like that, given what you're going to have to give up, he's 3 and he needs protection, which is Ozuna right behind him.
Right. I agree.
So yeah, I think that's the way that shakes out.
Speaking of Machado, I think it's increasingly likely that Bryce Harper is going to stay in Washington.
Why do you think that?
Well, he has significantly cooled off, and
I
mean, if he doesn't start tearing it up again like he did at the beginning of the season, I think the market is going to soften to the point that the Nationals can make a legitimate run at him without blowing up their roster.
Yeah, I mean, it is June still, so there's time. There's plenty of time for him to get back to it,
But it's not just the headline numbers for him; it's the peripherals and everything. He is not good.
But Pete, what I think what you're saying is like it's definitely not the walk year numbers he would ideally want.
No, yeah, that's true.
Especially compared to what Machado is putting up this year.
Oh, he is playing like an MVP.
He is the prototype.
Now, guys, just think of this. I agree. It is, but he's also playing for a team that has no consequence.
Yeah.
Like there's no pressure to any of their games, whether they win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to
with the Cubs because he'll be surrounded by a bunch of players. It won't all fall on him. Just saying.
That's what Hayward squirmed away from at St. Louis. Like you're going to be the guy, and he's like, I can't be the guy. I want to go to Chicago.
But I don't get that. I don't get that thing. I don't get that same sense from Machado.
No, I agree. Like he wants the statue.
Right, he does.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that I think that he would be able to find his place in Chicago in the shadow of Rizzo and Bryant and some of those bigger personalities where he would be able to take his time acclimating. That would kill you, wouldn't it?
Well, no, the Cardinals are killing me themselves without any help. No, what would kill me if the Cardinals went all out and traded for him and then he signed with Chicago in the offseason? That would be like there would be an upheaval. Like I think they would actually move the Mississippi River closer to Chicago. That many people like pissed off, like John boats full of Bud Light just cranking away, and like they would actually shift the Mississippi River closer. They would fail ultimately. It wouldn't get there, but they would move it closer. I'm just saying. I would be on that. I'd be on that army too. I'd be like George Washington on the front John boat. We're going up there.
With the Cardinals flag, holding it up front of the boat,
draped over my dead body.
Yeah.
We're swimming up this Illinois River to Chicago. We're gonna take the some bitches down. And we would die somewhere in Havana. Like just not quite there, but we'd all die. Yeah.
You get hung up at the Cabana.
That's right.
So real quick.
That's right. Noble me getting my dead body discovered in a strip bar.
So
By
real
Pete,
quick, Ron.
by Pete, that wouldn't feel sad. He would just post it on Twitter.
Quick thoughts on the draft, on the Cardinals draft.
They went out of character on their first pick because they picked a position player one, and it was a high school player. Normally, they are pitching heavy in the draft. I think they gambled up a lot on position players or players they felt had more power.
Do you think that's in response to seeing the formula that some of these other teams have taken, where they've drafted bats and just gone out and picked up pitchers?
Well, I think some of it, I mean, it would be foolish to deny that they aren't paying attention to what other organizations have done. I mean, just look at Chicago, right? Chicago ignored pitching for years, and they drafted a bunch of position players like Baez and Bryant,
Schwarber, Bryant, Baez, Almora.
I mean,
yeah.
There are a few exceptions, like maybe Thickberger and everything that they had drafted.
No,
but
he was a trade.
It was a trade, yeah.
Fine. So the Cubs, said, screw it. We're going to focus on one thing, and then we're going to spend our money acquiring the pitching we need. So,
although the last 2 years, I read it just before we came on the show, and I think it was in 16 and 17, the Cubs drafted, I believe, 52 pitchers in those two drafts. So, there was that operational shift the last couple of years in order to balance it out. And I think to a certain extent, Ron, you're right. But I think it's probably because they did an assessment of the organization and said.
But we're talking about your current roster. We're not talking about we're talking about your current roster.
Right. But I mean, I think that I would think anyway that the front office, the St. Louis front office, looked at the organization and said, you know what, we've got a lot of good pitchers. We're deep in the organization. It's time for us to balance that out.
It is. I mean, they drafted a lot of infield and
I mean, your minor league strengths are pitching and outfield, and
right? Not
so much in the infield, and they need
that. Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, look at who they've put their trust in the infield. And I'm not taking anything away from. I am. Your shortstop was Aledmus Diaz, which you had no plans for in 2017. I mean, that was like, where did he come from? Or 16. And then Paul DeYoung, who he was not in your plan going into that year, but he had a great rookie campaign, and now he's out now. Yet another Cardinal casualty, which you have not talked about. But, yeah, they haven't put a lot of stock in their draft and position players or power hitters. So I think they tried to, as best they could, overcompensate for that in this draft. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep.
Very good. Cubs went with a shortstop, Nico Horner from Stanford. Another bat.
Nico Horner.
Yep.
Nico Horner.
Yep. College guy, all Pac-12. So from some of the highlights that I saw, he looks like he's decent. Gonna need some work down in the minors, obviously, and then we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll be Machado's backup next year. I don't know.
No, he's not going to move that quickly.
Yeah, no, you can go fuck yourself for that.
Yeah, the Cubs draft approach this year seemed to be let's take some big swings. And probably anticipating that they're going to be near the bottom of the draft for the next couple of years. And so they took a lot of risky upside plays that they haven't done in the past. They took high school bats, which they've never done. They took players who either were coming back from injury or who are going to need surgery. So they took a lot of chances on upside plays, thinking that we're not looking for these guys to have an impact in 2 or 3 years. We're looking at them in 4 or 5 when the current core is starting to break down or is walking away, via free agent contracts. So
I think a lot of for a while. Yeah, I think a lot of the Cubs impact players that they'll bring in new will probably be more of the international side. because they've focused a lot on that, and the scouting that they have internationally has been really amazing these last few years.
Well, I'd say it's been semi-amazing as a Cardinal fan. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, guys, I said it in the podcast before ours. There's a guy called Kyle Reyes, and he puts stuff out for Birds on the Black.
Mm-hmm.
He does a podcast called Prospects After Dark. I watched one of his live things, and he follows us now on Twitter, and we follow him. He is actually insane when he comes to the minor leagues and what he knows about. What he knew about the draft, about players that were drafted, was incredible. He was going from player to player to player on his live thing. He knew more about it than I've ever known about any draft, NFL, NBA. I mean, it is just incredible. So I would say that if you want to know about the draft, if you want educated on it, I defer to Kyle Reyes from Birds on the Black. Birds on the Black. He knew about every prospect that got drafted, even the Cubs that they drafted early on. So just, I don't know how the guy kept it up. He was drinking whiskey. I never actually saw him breathe.
Was he drinking that whiskey out the bottle?
No, he was drinking out of a glass.
Not thinking about tomorrow?
Yes, I know where you're going. But he didn't pause until he had to drink a little sip of whiskey or water or whatever he's doing. But I highly recommend, if you want to know anything about what this guy was doing during the draft, please check that out. Because he knew about not only the Cardinals drafts, but everybody that was drafting in the first and second rounds.
Very good.
I'll have to go back and listen to that.
Yeah.
Because it was I was Jon Snow watching the MLB draft, so
you were Jon Snow watching the White Walkers approach.
That's right. I knew nothing.
I was just scared. They were approaching me, but I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know if I was supposed to say anything. But here they are.
That's right.
I'm supposed to hold up the sword, and everything's supposed to be work out.
All right, gentlemen, before we call it a night, let's get to the really important part. Did you get your tickets for Celebration?
I have not yet.
What?
I have not yet, man. What do you want me to do? Is this it? Is this it, guys?
Yes. This is it.
I haven't got my tickets yet. I mean,
I already got my tickets.
I mean, what do you do? I didn't know they were on sale until today. I mean, I was trying. I don't know when these things go on sale.
I went ahead and I bought my tickets.
I want to go to this thing for years.
For 2 days.
I wanted to go on for years.
Nobody wants to go. I still bought the 5-day pass. That way I could still go Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
It falls on my wife's weekend. I can never. I don't have the heart.
I didn't even buy a ticket for my son because he's not going to be with me that weekend. I'm not having him that weekend because I'm dedicating it to Star Wars and to you. And you can't follow through on that commitment.
You know what?
I don't know how much longer this can work out. God damn it.
I can't do it.
By the way, the Capitals just won the Stanley Cup.
Thank you, Elliott.
You're welcome.
In addition to that segment. That was great. That was really great. Pete.
And scene.
Pete, let's go.
When we're not live, you can find us at teamofrivalspodcast.com, on Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast. We're on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod, and we're also on Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. You can contact us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. And you can also contact Elliott directly on Twitter at
TOR_ELLIOTT.
And catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts: iTunes, Radio Public, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Play. And if you want to maybe throw a couple pennies our way, go to the team store on Zazzle. Although if you do, you're just going to piss Ron off. So, I mean, really,
keep your receipt.
Yeah,
if you want to buy, I'm not going to trash anybody. If you want to buy one of our Team of Rivals things on Zazzle, you go ahead. But I don't like giving any of them sons of bitches any dimes of what we've created. This is our stuff, Pete.
Hey, I just want to say very quickly before we go off, Guilherme Silva, thank you for subscribing to us on YouTube. You're the man.
You are the man.
Take us out.
All right, Pete. Well, thank you for that elegant lead out. Everybody, this has been a tough week for Cardinals fans. We've lost a legend, and we've lost a series to a very shitty team, which we shouldn't have, but we actually are facing the truth. Are we a shitty team? That is a question we will address next week. Pete and Elliott, I know you're reveling in this. Cardinal fans are not in a good position right now. That's why I didn't invite them on tonight, because it would have been a bloodbath.
Hey, you're only 3 games back.
All right, guys. Well, have a good week.
Have a good weekend.
Love you all.
Buy your tickets. Star Wars Celebration.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah, we will.
Bye.
All the headlines talking about the bullpen. It's only talking about the bullpen. The bullpen couldn't hold the lead. The bullpen couldn't hold them. Oh my God, this is what talking about the offense in these headlines. I mean, the problem is the offense. The bullpen's falling. These guys only score like 1 or 2 runs every other game. They're inconsistent. They've been inconsistent for like 4 or 5 seasons. They don't do anything about it. They keep running the same people out there. Oh yeah, Matt Carter, he's going to be our third hitter this year. He's never been able to do it. We keep counting on that. We got Jose Martinez. Love the guy. Come on, they hit him.
We've had problems
this year. They get under control.
The Cardinals offense hold our chess pieces.